As the quest for knowledge continues to progress forward, we find ourselves still asking questions about human behavior, social technology, and the future of mankind. In a world devoid of such discussion, 2 Crowder College instructors have been chosen to podcast their views on current events, weird science, and pop culture. And now, broadcasting from Crowder College, this is Psych with Nathan and Jason.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Welcome to episode 33 of Psych Out. I'm Nathan Gandy, your host here, a psychology instructor at Crowder College, here with my colleague,
Jason Edgar, speech instructor here at Crowder College, and we're also joined by a truck outside.
Yay! So if you hear noises, we couldn't scrub it out. Sorry.
Yeah, and we're not going to throw a fit and just shut down Psych Out like, the government. And boy, this wasn't even news last week, Nathan, because I think Ted Cruz did his big filibuster on Tuesday. But since then, it has been the topic of discussion. They were like, hey, we're going to take care of Syria. Let's talk about defunding Obamacare now. So what are your thoughts on the old shutdown, Nathan? We record on Monday, so...
Yeah, so by the time this gets posted, we'll see what happened or not, though all signs point to yes. For listeners who aren't exactly sure what the shutdown means, basically October 1st is the beginning of the fiscal year for the government. So it's not January 1st. This is the new year in terms of, we have to propose our yearly budget so that everyone who's a government employee can get paid. And so basically some of the, I guess it's House Republicans are using this as leverage to say we refuse to sign until you add these things that will get rid of or stop things in the Affordable Care Act, which is euphemistically called Obamacare. So it's kind of becoming this linchpin in a different argument. It's not about the government budget at this point, but it's that, hey, we have our hands on this. We can use this to leverage our argument. Both sides are, obviously loud and proud about their point of view, and what that means is if this doesn't get signed, tomorrow is October 1st, so when this gets posted, it'll be October 2nd. We may have, or do indeed have, a government shutdown, which means if you get a government paycheck, you may not be going to work. I think the last one was in 96?
95.
95? Okay, it was Bill Clinton, right? That was, and again, a similar point of contention. And so it became kind of a piece of leverage. Do you remember how long that one lasted? 20, 30 days?
I'm not for sure.
A couple of weeks, and it can get pretty bad.
They call this a furlough, right?
Yes.
And it'll affect 600,000 employees.
Yes.
Now, what we were talking about earlier, Ted Cruz talking about this, it wasn't even a filibuster. He's wanting to stall to kind of bring notoriety to this whole discussion. And what he's doing is trying to do a stopgap for something that's the law. This isn't something that can just be changed. Obamacare is on the books. What they're wanting to do is they're going to say, we're not going to sign, because the new funding also starts on October 1st, right? So Obamacare officially comes into October 1st, and certain Republicans, not all of them, certain Republicans think this is a bad idea, is saying, we don't want to sign this budget because we don't totally agree with Obamacare, even though a lot of the previous estimates about Obamacare have actually been way low. Now, here's another thing, Nathan. You talked about 95. The reason that not all Republicans are on board with this is because the GOP is going to be the one that is going to be the result of the government shutting down. And they were also the ones responsible in 95. They got their butts kicked in the 96 midterm election. So you're talking about the 2014 election. If they're the ones holding the hot potato, Nathan.
Right. American perception is you were the villains. Whether or not that's true or not, that's how we'll paint the picture.
Yeah.
I actually found an article, since, in Psych Out we do weird science, looking at how is science affected by if we do need to have a government shutdown. So I want to toss a few things to you, Jason, real quick. Let's start first with NASA, our National Aeronautics Space Administration. Has about 18,000 employees. They're expecting only 600 will show up for work. The rest will not be allowed. And that's to maintain, we have a space station, International Space Station. We can't just ignore. National Institute of Health which is probably going to be hit one of the hardest. They do all the research for medical breakthroughs cures. So same for the National Science Foundation. They're the ones who awards money to people like us who make grants and say, hey, we want to research this thing.
That next one scares me.
Yeah, that one. So, yeah, Center for Disease Control.
So let's hope we don't have a zombie apocalypse next month.
That's going to severely, it says, this is the quote from NBC, severely limited in spotting investigating disease outbreaks from flu to MERS virus. Smithsonian National Zoo, now those are more public institutions. They'll keep just enough people to watch or guard the stuff. Like, we'll feed the animals, we'll watch the paintings and relics, but people will not be allowed admitted in. Like, I can't go to the National Zoo or the Smithsonian if this happens. Hey, but good news, Jason. The NSA, not affected.
Not affected at all.
So,
and we talked the last time we had like this big day in the government was the fiscal cliff, right?
Yes.
And it seemed like the only people that were really affected by that were air traffic controllers, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And so they wanted to make members of Congress wanted to make concessions because, well, guess who's affected by air travel? Politicians. And so again, it's just like this petty politics, call it on both sides, that ultimately just comes back and bites them in the butt,
Yeah, it reminds me of, and I'm giving it less credence than I'm sure it is, but it reminds me of, playground fights of both sides being loud, but there's no substance in the middle. Like, okay, what do we do instead of this? Well, I don't know. I'm just keeping you from doing it.
And listen, believe what you want about the Affordable Care Act, but I'm one of those people that think the last status quo that we had was just totally, totally terrible with the insurance companies and things like that. So, like Obama's just wanting to kind of like, put some stopgaps in between, just really just getting your, I'm going to say butt handed to you whenever you have like an emergency and you have to go to the emergency room.
And I've actually heard several, you mentioned, not all Republicans were anti this. I've even heard those on the side who said, okay, we don't support this, have said things like, but if you don't support this, you need to bring something to the table. Like, what's your way? Because as you said, the status quo was not working. And unfortunately, right now where we are with the shutdown is we're not talking about, hey, let's do this to fix it. It's just more of a petty, I'm mad at this thing, so let's keep it from happening. So
one last thing I heard someone explain, it's like saying if your team doesn't make the World Series, just shutting down the World Series completely. And it sounds ridiculous, but that's
or your Psych Out Fantasy Football League. Stop the NFL.
I didn't do bad this week. I got Monday night left. I'm against my brother. I only need Drew Brees to get 8 points. He'll get that. So,
Well done. Representing us well.
We'll talk about Psych Out Fantasy Football in the next few weeks. But
all right, real quick. No, I think that's enough for that sad and possibly scary news. So we had a couple of quick, fun little things to talk about.
Yeah, one was something that your wife posted on our Facebook wall.
Yeah.
Ben Barnes agreed with it. Basically, the Popular Science website is no longer accepting comments on new articles. And this, I think, really rings true to Nathan, because even in episode 1 and multiple episodes that we've had, you've talked about how you're not the biggest fan of user comments.
I am not, and I understand it dancing the line between wanting to let a community engage in discussion, but also that line of letting anybody say whatever they want. And the reason Popular Science did this, if any of you haven't seen that article, was there is evidence out there, actual research that demonstrates that people's opinions of factual articles change based on the comments. So I can say we did a study and we found A, B, and C, and Jason can go flame it, and in the comments, the researchers are idiots and this is not how the world works and what morons. And even that bit of dissension, even without him providing anything, made readers less likely to believe the original article. So here, your website based on, let's just talk about science, let's talk about stuff we found out, but people's opinions are becoming the same weight as the research.
Yeah,
so.
Like, it even sounds weird saying it out of your mouth. People are arguing science. Right. It's one of those things that doesn't require argument. So
there's a website I like called io9.com. They're kind of a sci-fi and science website. They do both pop culture and not. They presented a counter argument about why they should be kept. I thought that was pretty interesting. You guys can Google that. I tend to come down on the side of there are certain sites that I just don't think need comment section.
Yeah.
Or and maybe this is a compromise, but you're talking about a full-time job here. You're going to have very active and discerning moderators, people who are constantly reading and removing people. And as a super fast footnote, that was something that came out last week. YouTube is about to change their comment section policies because they are notorious for having the worst and terrible comments of any website. And so they're about to change that to moderate and kick people off.
Yeah, and especially on YouTube, like, you know, that little Rebecca Black girl that posted Friday a couple years ago, she had like 75% of the commenters were saying, you know, kill yourself. That's
absolutely
terrible to be saying to a 14-year-old who has a little poppy song.
Yeah.
They also talk about trolls and spam bots on the former. So again, something with science. I totally agree with this.
Yeah.
Ben Barnes said he couldn't agree more. I think you agree. So.
That's 3. That's all we need.
3 smart people.
And, you know, I said good news this last little bit. Is it good news, Jason?
For what?
The end of an era.
Oh, the Breaking Bad finale?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's almost like, think of the last time you went and watched a movie, and you love the movie from start to finish, right? How did you feel after that movie?
Oh, it's a grand feeling.
Yeah. Well, Breaking Bad to me is kind of like just an extended movie because it's one story ultimately, right? We're talking about obviously that chemistry teacher who turns bad, breaks bad, and then starts selling meth. Or not selling meth, but making meth because he's a chemist.
Yeah.
So the last episode was last night, and season finales, I'm sure Nathan can attest, series finales they're usually pretty rough.
Super hit and miss.
because you either run the problem of leaving the people that have been such dedicated viewers with unanswered questions, like The Sopranos.
Yeah.
The Sopranos is considered one of the best dramas on TV, and they have like an unanswered question at the end of it, and that almost like waters down the entire series. Or you can do too much you can do it like in one episode. You tie up all the loose ends really quickly, and it's almost like you couldn't have done that in one episode. But Breaking Bad, he really only needed like 2 or 3 things left to do. They foreshadowed certain ways on how he got his weapons for this final act, and everything just played out very nice. Fan favorite. Well, I don't want to do any spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything, but all the fan favorites, you know, got their just desserts and things like that. It wrapped up the story great, and no tearjerkers, obviously, but I wanted to talk to you, Nathan, about ultimately Vince Gilligan as the director.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite directors right now because he's all about, you know, flash forwards, flash sideways, and things like that. He foreshadows really well. Like, if you're not paying real close attention, you'll miss a certain spot. And it really feeds back to what you've always talked about with me is television making us smarter. Yeah. And he's one of those guys that's really saying, okay, viewer, you think you're smart? Try to follow this story.
Yeah,
and
trust your audience.
Very, very fulfilling. So...
No, that's awesome. And let me ask you one last thing on this.
Sure.
Because you mentioned the movie analogy. Do you think years from now, your schedule's open, you're bored on a summer, do you think you would rewatch this series?
Breaking Bad?
If you had the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
It would be worth seeing a second time to watch it move through.
Yeah, and I've told listeners this and viewers multiple times on Psych Out that the first season is really tough because he himself is learning how to money launder. Mm-hmm. You can't just sell meth and then take the money and put it in your bank account. Like, the government's going to be like knocking on your door saying, hey. So the first season's kind of like him getting used to it. But boy, once he gets introduced to like this big time distributor, oh boy, the shiz really hits the fan. And the reason why I would watch it again is because it's one of those shows where you might find something new. Yeah. He plays with colors a lot. Like, the main character is Walter White. Mm-hmm. He works for a company called Gray Matter. The other main character is Jesse Pinkman. They always talk about how Marie is always cloaked in purple. Mm-hmm. And he plays a lot with colors. And like I said, just a bunch of foreshadowing too.
That's awesome.
Fanboy, Jason.
No. We all have those shows we love, but it is great when it ends well because it is a gamble. Like you said, either they drop the ball or they play it so safe that you're like, yeah, it was all right, but you didn't take any risk.
Yeah.
And so
Dexter didn't take any risk. And a week after the finale, I'm going to change my answer from the Dexter finale from meh to didn't like it.
now that you've seen a better finale.
Dexter's like, especially Breaking Bad did this. There was a manhunt at the end.
Yes.
The manhunt in Dexter was for his girlfriend. Like,
gotcha. Yeah. He was never in the spotlight.
Yeah,
even though that was the point.
In season 2 and 7, there were manhunts for him, but he squashed all of them. So the last season of Dexter could have just been called Hannah, his girlfriend. So, anyways, there we go for some current events.
All right, well, that's certainly enough. We'll take a break. When we come back, we got some pretty interesting weird science and a really great interview. So, see you then.
I know you know that I'm not telling the truth. I know you know. Just don't let me waste our deception. Learn how to bend your worst inhibitions. Gonna psych you out in the end.
Episode 33 of Psych Out is brought to you by the Neosho Fall Festival. The Fall Festival will be held this Saturday, October 5th, and will include more art, music, food, and fun than ever before.
Food especially.
Man, fun especially. I've already heard that they're going to have a bouncy castle.
Jason's one dream.
Yeah, when I was growing up, we just had that, McDonald's ball pit. I always thought there was like a snake in there. Like, there could be.
The festival will be serpent-free.
Serpent, yes, absolutely. Speaking of that festival, the festival will include crafters from throughout the Ozarks, festival food, a coaster car race, which I really want to do that.
I like things that move fast.
Wagon rides, art shows, and live outdoor music. And it takes place from 9 to 5. And Wes is going to tell us that he has a live musical act every hour on the hour.
Man.
So there you go. The Lions Club will also host a pancake breakfast at the Sky.
I told you, food, man. We ought to do it in this show.
No, what I was laughing at is like the Lions Club is like a bunch of lions just serving you pancakes.
Really? That was your takeaway?
That was my funny joke,
all right.
Lions.
I got you.
Speaking of animals, the Faithful Friends Animal Advocates will host a pet contest and adoption. So,
hooray!
I don't know about you parents, but don't show your kids those cute little puppies adoption because they'll just be like, "Hey, mommy, I want that."
I'll show my wife the cute. We have 2 now.
You have 2 adorable dogs.
They do.
I love
And it was
dogs.
because of things like this that we got them. So.
Can we keep them?
Yeah.
There's really not a right answer, is there?
No.
No. All right. This year will also feature a dedication to the Neosho Fire Department, which is celebrating its 125th year serving Neosho.
Man, congrats there.
Putting firefighters out in fires out in Neosho for 125 years.
Yeah.
It was probably called the Bucket Brigade 125 years ago, wasn't it, Nathan? For more information on the fire department 125 years or anything that we've talked about regarding the Fall Festival, please contact Wes Franklin at area code 417-451-8050 or visit the City of Neosho Facebook page at facebook.com/ just look for it.
City of Neosho.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Psych Out, where it's now time for Weird Science. We brought some articles today, both from our own Google searches, but also from some fans out there who have posted things. And as always, please keep posting these articles. We like talking about them. And the first one I want to talk about is something I told Jason. I was actually asked several times just in the hallway or in public with friends that people can say, "Hey, did you see this?"
Well, this has the propensity to be big news.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. It's really big, but they wanted to know my opinion, not as a physicist, but of course as a big geek. And that is, there were scientists at MIT who recently discovered a new property of matter, a new property specifically of photons that may make it possible to one day have a lightsaber.
Oh boy. Is this going to be for fighting purposes?
Oh, who knows, though. Typically, innovation can come from either health needs or military needs, so who knows. And what we're talking about here is, if you guys know anything about lasers, you know that light, we can make lasers, we can shoot things, but a laser doesn't stop. It goes until it hits its target. It's traveling light, so unless there's a wall or a thing in front of it. But if you've seen a lightsaber, it's a stick, which means it just kind of stops and tapers. And so light can't do that. Photon can't do that, or so we thought. But these researchers were playing with photons, and let me see if I can find here's their specific experiment for you physicist needs. They put atoms of rubidium, which is a kind of metal, into a vacuum chamber. So there's no air in this chamber. This created a metal cloud that cooled down with lasers to about negative 450 degrees Fahrenheit. That's as close to absolute zero. And so basically the atoms are all but standing still. And then they fired photons into the cloud. These photons are light, so when they shoot, if you ever shoot two photons together, they just pass each other. There's a boop.
Yeah.
They go through each other because they're not hitting like a wall or something. But when they shot through this cloud, they stopped. They acted like matter, like they slowed down like matter, and they actually knocked into each other. They bumped into each other. So basically, they made light, my words, act like a solid. It made it stop instead of pass through stuff. And so the reason why people are using that lightsaber metaphor, or I guess in this case analogy, is, like I said, lasers can't stop like a lightsaber just stops there. But now they've made that happen. So the idea of, maybe we can actually, what we really think this is going to do is change the way we make computers. Computers, they use circuits. Well, there's the whole idea of like quantum supercomputers, and we can use light to transfer information instead of electricity. So kind of cool. Maybe my grandchildren will have lightsabers, though frankly I don't want to.
And these are researchers from MIT and Harvard create a new form of matter and tell us all a lesson about the power of quantum friendship. And so everything I read was about these photons being friendly towards each other.
Yes.
So what are you referring to there, Nathan?
Friendly meaning that, again, they attract each other. They stay together versus repel each other like a positron and electron.
All right. And it talks about photons, and we can talk a little bit about our mandate, Nathan, whenever we watch Star Trek Into Darkness. Because they use the old photon torpedoes,
right?
Now, I would think a photon torpedo would just be like a blast of light, but apparently in the Star Trek world, these are very dangerous weapons.
Right. So I guess really you could almost say this article with the whole lightsaber could also use that geek metaphor, because a torpedo, this big ball of energy that's knocking into your target. Well, all the photons are hanging out together. Why not? Yeah. So,
well, there we go.
Sci-fi meets science. Hey, but that's why we call it weird. But Jason, you have a little bit of weirdness you want to bring to the table, though.
Oh boy, and we're going to use this green screen too. Chinese doctor creates new nose on man's forehead.
Oh man!
Ahead of unusual transplant operation.
And I told Jason I saw the picture, but I didn't read the article, so I had no idea what was going on other than a guy had a nose growing out of his head.
Yeah, and constructed an extra nose out of a man's rib cartilage and implanted it under the skin of his forehead to prepare for a transplant in probably the first operation of its kind. Oh, I mean, those aren't very mainstream, right? The old nose on the forehead. But I can't tell you the guy's name. He's a surgeon at the Fujian Medical University.
Okay.
And
it's in China, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we're trying to figure out why they're doing that, but ultimately, the way that the nose is combining with the forehead skin, it's kind of like creating some new additional skin for this particular person. So it's not because they're wanting to have breathe through his forehead, but it's kind of one of those weird human body things where it's like, you put the raw material of your nose on the raw material of your brain, or your forehead, and after a week or so, it creates some sort of new form of skin that can be used elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
They've used this before somewhere else.
I've seen it in other animals as well. I've seen some rats where we've done that, where we've actually transplanted organs or caused an ear to grow.
Yeah, okay.
Same idea. It's more of we need the tissue as a surrogate to create this thing. So you're not just creating a plastic nose and a 3D printer. You're actually creating something that is skin and can bond and plan as a transplant. plant, you need to do. It has to attach to the body, not be rejected. So,
from the surgeon's mouth, he says he plans to cut the nose from the forehead while leaving a section of skin still connected, and then rotate and graft it into position in a later operation. So, strangely, I was correct on what reason he was doing that. But
I wonder how much the guy with the nose on his head gets paid for his time.
And Nathan, the first time I saw that, I was blown away. And it's probably one of those things where it's like, as a human, I'm saying, that's not right, correct? Yeah. So if it doesn't weird you out, there's probably something weird with you, right? So anyways, anything else about old nose, forehead?
Oh, no, I think we'll move to different pictures now because that one's a little creepy.
All right. Well, the last one, and we've got a pretty good mix here recently, Nathan, of me weird science, you weird science, and a viewer weird science. So this one comes from Nathan's mom, Kate Gandy. By the way, we need to put this on air production here. We need to talk about that siblings episode. Remember when she gave us that siblings?
Did. In fact, I have the research. I have those documentation in my office.
Because you have a sibling and I have a sibling, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay. There we go. All right. Well, what did Kay send us? She didn't even really send us anything. She just posted like a comment on our Facebook wall. She asked us if we had heard of this plant that grows potatoes on the bottom and tomatoes on the top. Have you heard of that, Nathan?
Not until this was posted. I think a brilliant use of genetic food engineering because, Jason, what's the combination?
Ketchup and French fries. And that's exactly what they're calling this Tom-tato plant. The garden equivalent of French fries and ketchup. The hybrid plant isn't exactly new, but this is the first time it's been commercially produced, reported by the BBC. So this isn't just something that one guy, cultivated on his roof, but you can actually order these seeds for like $14 a pop and start growing your ketchup and French fries plant.
That's awesome. No, I'm a big fan of, and this, let me explain what it says, of genetically modified foods. That doesn't necessarily mean like hormone injected like people typically imply. We do a lot of genetic plant modifications, things that makes plants grow in worse conditions, or in this case add capacities that the plant didn't have before. So now you get two different types of foodstuffs. So if you think about feeding the populace, and certainly a population of individuals who maybe don't have easy access to food like we do in the Western world, that's really fascinating to me. But I do appreciate the potato joke.
Well, you say tomato.
It reminds me of there's an episode of The Simpsons where they crossbreed a tomato with tobacco.
Oh boy, and it's tough to do this because, maybe your tomatoes become ripe, but it wouldn't be the season for potatoes, and then vice versa, where the potatoes will grow, but the tomato it wouldn't be ripe or something. But they finally concocted a way to do this. And whenever I think of, they're always growing tomatoes in weird ways. You ever seen that infomercial where they're growing tomatoes upside
down? Yeah, yeah, they can do that.
And also, maybe for our illicit drug user friends, it's maybe the same thing as hydroponics, oxyponics. Yeah. Nathan's eyes just got really big. I don't know.
How does he know?
Okay. Yeah. Well, just growing certain things. I don't know. Maybe some. What do they call it?
Medicinal aids.
Marijuana.
The marijuana.
There we go. Well, I think today this has probably been the weirdest science of them all.
It's been a while.
All three. Wow.
All right. Well, noses on heads, lightsabers, and French fries and ketchup. That's a good place to end. So we're going to stop there. When we come back, we have an interview. Who is our guest today?
Oh, Wes Franklin. He is a special events coordinator for Neosho.
Neosho. We got a big event coming up.
He's going to talk a little bit about the Fall Festival. It's going to be at the Neosho Square this Saturday. And let's not divulge any information,
no,
Nathan. Let's let him talk about it.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll see you then.
Welcome back to Psych Out, and we are pleased to be joined by Wes Franklin. He is the kind of the initiator and overall person to talk to in regards to this Neosho Fall Festival that it's attending this weekend. Thank you for joining us, Wes.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I was getting to know you earlier, and I was asking you about your job and what's connected you to Fall Festival. So go ahead and tell the listeners what you do for Neosho and the Fall Festival.
Sure. Well, my title is Public Relations and Events Coordinator, and one of the hats I wear is to organize all of the city-sponsored events, which includes Fall Festival. In fact, Fall Festival is probably one of the bigger events that we host as a city of Neosho.
As far as size, how many do you expect to be there?
Come and go crowd of probably 1,500 to 2,000.
Oh, sweet. Is that mostly Neosho people? Or is
we draw them out from the four-state area for sure, southeast Kansas, northeast Oklahoma. I got a call today from a lady from Miami, Oklahoma. So,
okay.
A little bit of northwest Arkansas, and of course, Missouri.
Absolutely. You just mentioned that you're event coordinator in Neosho, and this question just popped into my mind. Do you have anything to do with that citywide garage sale?
No. Well, let me take that back. This year, and I guess in the past as well, but especially this year, because I was involved in it, so I can speak directly to it, we partnered with the Chamber to help promote it, because the citywide is really a community event, just like the Fall Festival. And so we try to partner with the Chamber when we can, and just everybody helps each other out. And the Chamber's helped us with the Fall Festival and promoting it. And so, yeah, everybody helps each other. It's a community event.
And how long has the festival been going on? I know you've just recently taken it over, but just give us a little history of the Fall Festival.
That's a good question. It's hard to answer, too, because the Neosho Fall Festival is actually pretty old. I mean, it was around for decades and decades. People remember from way back when. And then late 90s, early 2000s, there was a hiatus where Neosho just didn't have a fall festival. And then in 2007, I want to say maybe 2008, the Neosho Fall Festival was actually resurrected. People got together in the city and said, hey, we want to do this again. So that's what we've been doing ever since. And I actually was involved in helping organize it back in 2008 when I was director of the Newton County Historical Park. It was a side thing I did, which is something I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of involved in again, just helping organize it back then as well. But now I guess I'm the main organizer of it. So each year since 2008, since the Neosho Fall Festival was revived, it's gotten bigger and better as far as I'm concerned.
Now, it takes place on the square. I actually live near the square, and I haven't seen, across from the Civic, there's a couple of apartments there.
Yeah.
And also, right before you get into the main strip in Neosho, coming into Neosho, you're already starting to see carnival rides. Is that connected to you, or is that just something different?
No.
Okay, you would happen to know what that is, right?
The one that you're talking about, the hotel there?
Yeah, near the hotel.
Right, they do that. It's a company out of McDonald County, and they bring it to the hotel periodically.
Oh, okay, so it has no connection to Fall Festival. Okay. Are there any rides at Fall Festival?
Oh, yeah. There'll be, not like you would say carnival rides per se, but there are pony rides, there are wagon rides, there are inflatable rides for the kids.
Okay.
All day long. And the inflatable rides are actually free, no charge. The city's covering that expense and just offering it to the public free of charge, just as a service.
There we go. Any other activities for kids?
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's one of the things we want to do this year is add more activities for kids. From 9 to 11, for instance, we're having a kids' fishing time in Big Spring Park, which, as far as I know, has never been done before. We fish in Hickory Creek in Morse Park, but Big Spring Park, that's a spring. That's the big spring, you know. And as far as I know, nobody's ever fished out of that, as a community event. So that's what we're going to do that from 9 to 11. It's for kids 15 and under. If they're catching and releasing, which we highly recommend, they don't have to have a fishing license or a trap tag or anything.
Well, that's cool.
Because they're 15 and under and they're catching and releasing.
Yeah, and it's a fairly small little creek, right? So is that the same one with the ducks?
It is. It is. In fact, what we'll be doing this at is north of the fish. You feed the fish. It'll be just north of that.
Okay.
The Neosho National Fish Hatchery is releasing some trout into the Big Spring north of that fish pond. And the kids, all they have to do is they do have to bring their own pole and their own bait, just dig some worms up and show up. Like I said, it's from 9 to 11. And then after that, as far as kids games go, from 11 to 1, we're having some fall-themed kids games also in Big Spring Park. Things like a straw maze and just different fun stuff like that, kind of fall-related events.
And you talked about how you have some new kids activities this year. Are there any other activities that you're bringing to the Fall Festival that are newer this year?
Lots.
Please, go on.
One of the things that we're doing is a coaster car race. Think soapbox derby.
Okay.
Now that name's trademarked, so we're not using it. But coaster car race is exactly the same thing as a soapbox derby. We're doing that from 10. Not sure. It starts at 10. We're not sure how long it'll last because we haven't done it before. Back when Neosho used to do they used to have a coaster car or a soapbox derby all the time. For some reason, it's faded away, so we're bringing it back this year for Fall Festival. It'll start south of the square on McKinney and Washington, and the cars will race down to Hickory Street on Washington, and there'll be a slowdown stretch from Hickory to basically the square, you might as well say. It'll all be closed off. The weigh-in for that is 8 a.m. at MFA. Feeds just a couple blocks away.
Okay. Have you had any applicants for that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had several. We've had several. In fact, I've even seen some of the cars that have been built already.
Awesome.
Yeah, it'd be really good. Another kids activity we're doing is Art Feeds organization in Joplin. They're coming down with their mobile art center. It's basically just a big bus that's just painted all different kinds of colors.
Oh, okay.
And there's art activities available for free for kids to do, inside the bus, around the bus. The Neosho Arts Council is sponsoring that, and that'll be in front of the Neosho Civic Center, which is 109 West Main, just west of the square. So that'll go on from 9 to noon. Before that, we have a sidewalk chalk art contest. Now, that isn't something that's new, but that's something that's very popular. It's a sidewalk chalk art for kids and for adults, too. There's up to $1,000 in cash prizes. That's also sponsored by Neosho Arts Council. It'll go on from 8 to noon as well. Kids under 16 don't have to pay anything. After 16 and up, there's a $10 registration fee. So just stuff like that. A pony ride, that's also something new this year that hadn't been done before.
Cool.
Those are $4. The city isn't actually sponsoring that. We brought in somebody else who's doing that, and so those tickets are $4. So yeah, just a lot of the basic stuff, the popular things we do year to year, like the inflatable rides, like I mentioned over them already. They're free. They'll be on the southeast corner.
We're talking about a big bouncy castle.
Yeah, they have like a big bounce house. Also,
they didn't have those things when me and you were kids. Do you remember those things?
Yeah, I do. I always wanted to do the one with all the balls.
Yeah.
Never
ball
got to do
pits.
it. Never got to do it.
Again, we are talking to Wes Franklin. He's events coordinator for the City Hall, and also we're talking about the Fall Festival. Another thing when I was doing research on this, Wes, is that you're kind of parlaying this into a special anniversary for the fire department. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another new thing we're doing this year. This is the 125th anniversary of the Neosho Fire Department.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah. So at Fire Station 1, which is 125 College Street, there in Neosho, just around the block from the square, basically, a couple blocks away. The fire department's going to do a special anniversary event. They're going to have a chili cook-off between the fire shifts, where the public gets to judge, see who makes the best firehouse chili among the different firefighters.
Okay.
They're going to have some door prizes, maybe some kids' games there, and just fun stuff like that. So that's something totally brand new as well.
Is there a difference between firehouse chili and regular chili?
Firehouse chili is supposed to be really hot.
Okay.
As I understand
Makes
it.
sense.
But I'm not sure if this is going to be spicy or not because the public's judging it, and not everybody likes spicy chili. I do. But, yeah.
As soon as you said that, I wanted to know what time and where do I go.
I've got Nathan 1 to 3 at the debate tournament, so.
The firehouse, the fire department celebration, that'll be starting at 10 a.m. We'll have a special presentation at 11 with State Representative Bill Reibold giving a proclamation to the fire department, just recognizing their 125th anniversary. And then the firehouse chili cook-off, that's going to start right after that. So right at 11 o'clock, and like I said, the public can start judging and do all that. And that'll last till about 3 p.m., that part of it.
Yeah. Nathan's very excited for that. Talk a little bit about some of the music that's going to be occurring at Fall Festival.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you asked that. It's going to be really cool. I mean, every year, we have live music on the square. We're going to have some new bands this year, too. One, just going down the list as far as, order of appearance, from 9 to 10 is Folk and Roll.
Folk and Roll.
Yeah, Folk and Roll. That's right. We're in Southwest Missouri, baby.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ozarks, man. So So yeah, they'll be on from 9 to 10. They play folk, just like it sounds, kind of a hopped up folk music.
Yeah, there you go. Anybody else?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And then from 10 to 11 is Riverbend, formerly the Jeremiah Jones Band. They're actually, if you go to our Facebook page, City Neosho Facebook page, search for it. We have a link on there for Riverbend with some of their music. And it's kind of, it's kind of bluesy. It's folksy, but it's bluesy too.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that. And then I said that they start at 10. I go to 10 to 11, and then from 11 to noon is a band called Breaking Silence. They're also kind of a hopped up folk music. They're out of Northwest Arkansas. At noon, we're having a pet contest, the Faithful Friends Animal Advocates.
Yeah.
And then from 1 to 2, Theo Mason. He's out of Knoll. He sings kind of a country gospel. He's a singer-songwriter.
Okay.
Just performed in Branson recently. And then, like I said, he's performing until 2.
So you just got music lined up from 9 to 5 the entire time, right?
Yeah, there'll be tons of live music going on.
A little more about that Faithful Friends Animal Advocates. I read somewhere that there might be an adoption there too.
Yeah, the adoption day will be on the north side of the square.
Okay.
But they'll have some dogs and maybe some cats as well. Okay. Mostly dogs is what I've seen in the past. For people just to stop by and fill out the paperwork, do all those necessary things.
Okay.
And then take home an abandoned animal to a good home, because that's what these animals are. They've been abandoned, dumped off.
Sure.
They picked them up. They've been brought to them, and they're looking for good homes. So that'll be on the north side of the square all day. Like I said, and then the pet contest will be at noon. Yeah, man, there's just stuff going on all day long.
All this stuff going on. Do you know if Crowder has any connection? Like, does Crowder have anything set up? I think Drew talked about a theater performance. Go ahead.
That's another new thing we're doing this year. I mean, going on about new stuff.
Go ahead.
At 1 p.m., Crowder College Theater Department is going to perform some theatrical readings. They'll be doing some script, maybe some sneak preview into some of the things that they're doing later in the show in the theater year. And Drew told me just a while ago, in fact, that a lot of it's kid oriented.
Okay.
And so that'll be 1 p.m. on the Grecian stage in Big Spring Park. I'm excited about it, and Drew is too. We were just talking to him, and JP Dickey as well. Just because we're actually using the Grecian stage for theater, which is what it was intended as.
Yeah. And that's by the pool area kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, if you know where the waiting pool is in Big Spring Park, on the south side of Big Spring Park, I mean, you can't miss it. It's the big stage with the big Greek columns, the big white columns.
Yeah.
So 1 p.m. they'll be doing some theater stuff.
Is that the only thing Crowder's doing specifically?
No, I know they'll have maybe some information with the among the vendor booths on the square.
Okay. So there's a bunch of vendor booths too. Right?
There are a lot of vendor booths this year, and it's they'll all be on the square from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. When we have, I mean, just they're coming from all over. Seriously,
yeah.
I mean, everything from walking tacos. You ever seen those?
Yeah, I think we served some at Crowder.
Yeah,
so,
and a lot of barbecue. I don't know. It could be Neosho Fall Barbecue Fest or something.
Sweet.
A lot of. I mean, come hungry. That's all I'm saying. Come hungry because
that
there's
and
going
the
to be
chili.
Oh yeah, You got chili, you got barbecue. I mean, smoked chicken, beef brisket, pulled pork sandwiches. There are a lot of food vendors this year. In fact, people were telling me that we seem to have more food vendors this year than we've ever had before. So, really excited about that.
Don't let that food go to waste, people. So, what you've been saying over the past 10 minutes is like if you cannot find something that interests you, you're not trying hard enough. You've got stuff going on in Big Spring Park, the whole square, and also the Civic Center.
I'm glad you mentioned the Civic Center real quick because we're going to have an art show in the Civic Center and dance studio performances. The art show lasts all day. Local artists can bring their art in and display it, perhaps even sell it because that's what artists want to do. So, if you're into art, you're into local art, original pieces because that's a big thing. That'll be going on in the Civic Center all day long. And also dance studio performances. Some local dance studios are putting on some performances, and everything. And that'll start at noon and go till, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just however long it happens to last. So, just really excited about that. And I mean, like I said, the wagon rides on the square, the pony rides, the free inflatable rides for the kids, the food and craft vendors, the kids fishing in the morning, kids games, the coaster car race, all kinds of stuff. Nobody has any excuse to be bored this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to cancel my tournament just so I can go. So I hope all these people
do it. Yep.
Let's get to know Wes a little bit because I think you'd be a good recurring guest. What are some other events you're going to be doing? Let's step aside from Fall Festival for a second. What are some ideas that you have in the future?
Well, I can't divulge all that, but...
oh, okay. Whatever you can.
I know some things I'm doing for a fact.
Okay.
Some of it's just in my head, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the next thing we're doing is the park lighting ceremony. We do it every year in Big Spring Park. I didn't say tree lighting ceremony because our Christmas tree died.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, it's sad. It was a big Norway spruce, but the drought, drought kills.
Yikes.
So...
and I guess that was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, we did it last year, but, the thing was pretty much dead.
Yeah, by then.
It was like Charlie Brown Christmas. It was kind of sad.
Sad, yeah.
But, but we're going to do a tree lighting ceremony. We may come up with something, but at the very least, we'll have the Big Spring Park decorated with Christmas lights like it always is. Looks really beautiful. Mm-hmm. So we'll do that December 5th. Usually it's at dusk, we'll say 7 p.m., usually something like that. It gets dark a little earlier then. That's just 2 days before the Neosho Christmas Parade, which is hosted by the Neosho Area Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So, like I said, we'll be doing the Christmas tree lighting ceremony December 5th. There'll be some stuff going on in the Civic, too. I believe the Sir Optimus Club is going to do some Christmas crafts, things like that. That'll be going on that same evening. So
just wrapping up the year with some Christmas stuff.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
We might have you in for that. Well, anyways, Saturday, October 5th, historic Neosho downtown from 9 to 5. Wes Franklin is spearheading this Neosho Fall Festival. So thank you, Wes, for joining us, and we'll be back.
Thank you.
Once again, Jason and I would like to thank you so much for listening and watching Psych Out. You can watch or hear these new podcasts each week by either going to YouTube and checking out Crowder Psych Out, or you can subscribe on iTunes to listen to the Psych Out podcast. You can even go to our host site, Psych Out, PSYCH-OUT.podbean.com, and listen for free whenever you like. Now, if you listen or watch us, but you want to then talk to us, because who wouldn't want to do that, Jason? You can check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and we're all under PsychOut66. We love it when you comment. We love it when you post, because it's less work for us. We can just read what you said. So, free time. For those of you new to listening or watching, you just heard us cover current events, weird science, and any pop culture event that we find interesting. So please continue to listen. And for those of you who've been with us from the beginning or just joining in, thanks for your support and listening to Psych Out.
Yes, and it's that dedication which has gotten us credibility on the Podbean website.
That's right. I was super excited about this, and I just paper cutted Jason to prove my excitement right in the face. Our host site has over 600,000 active accounts, millions of podcasts. We are currently featured in their education section. If you go to podbean.com without looking for Psych Out, just click on Education Podcast. We pop up pretty
the first
high, right?
one, we should have a picture right here of what it looks like. As soon as I saw it, I did a screenshot. I was like, look at that!
Look at that. So this is not just, Ma and Pa website. This is one of the premier hosts, so I appreciate them giving us, whether it's a week or month or even a day of credit for putting us up there. But it's because we get consistent traffic from listeners. We get consistent feedback, consistent downloads. So thanks so much, guys. We definitely appreciate it. And it's this website, Podbean, that lets us even have a place to host our podcast. So thanks so much. Jason, as we wrap things up, I didn't have a very eventful week or weekend. Did you have anything you wanted to bring to the table?
Well, this past weekend, I didn't do anything. I had to give a small speech at the Phi Theta Kappa initiation ceremony.
That's our Honor Society, listener.
Honor Society for 2-year schools, and they wanted me to give the keynote, and my first keynote ever, and that's a tough one. Like I was telling you, it's supposed to be like inspirational and like one word, and I'm more of like, hey, just do this.
Did you start out your speech with, none of us can be Walter White, but if you could.
Oh, that's another thing. I spent all my Sunday watching football and watching Breaking Bad, catching up on Breaking Bad stuff. But I'm more interested in this next weekend, which this is one of the busiest weeks of my of year even. I'm hosting an October Slam. I'm hosting a college speech and debate tournament.
Yes.
Called October Slam.
October Slam, in a steel cage.
And this doesn't really just happen on Friday and Saturday. I'm talking to the coaches on Tuesday, getting their entries in, solidifying entries on Wednesday, scheduling it on Thursday, and then, on Friday and Saturday, we have a bunch of colleges and universities visiting us at Crowder, staying in our hotels, eating the Neosho food, and that's the reason why I wanted to call this podcast, Nathan, the Neosho Slam. Because if you're not at the Fall Festival, Nathan, you ought to be at Crowder helping me judge the speech tournament.
I will be at both. Once I figure out what time I have to be in different places, because after that interview of all the stuff to do and really about all the food to eat, I gotta make sure I'm at both places.
Yes, absolutely. I'll make sure Mandy gets you there too. And one thing to note, Denzel Washington a couple years ago made a movie called The Great Debaters. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. That is about an all-black school in Marshall, Texas called Wiley College. Our first tournament that they attend is October Slam, so they visit our tournament, and it's always a big news thing whenever the great debaters are at your tournament.
Yeah,
always a great group of people. Another thing I want to talk about. What about your weekend, Nathan? This guy.
Oh well, past weekend nothing big. Coming up, I've got a debate tournament to be a judge at. You may have heard of it. It's called October Slam.
Yes.
And, no, my big plans were I've got some family coming in town, but I want to do the Fall Festival with them and then do the debate tournament. So that's my big plans.
Fantastic. And I don't know if we've said this enough, but real quickly, we want to thank Mike Jernigan and Travis Christensen.
Yes.
They're the ones that have set up this entire video cast, put it on the green screen, introduced Nathan to the editing system, and I think it goes without saying, thank you to Mike and Travis if they're listening.
I got this ball rolling.
Hey, I think that's about it, Nathan, except we got to talk about our toys.
That's true. And as listeners and now watchers know, we had a really bare table, so we thought, well, we'll bring a little something each week and just kind of populate this with nonsense. And today, or actually not even today, this weekend, I was trying to think what I would bring, and I was like, I'm going to bring some trophy or something where I'm going to try to keep it classy. Mm-hmm. And then in cleaning and digging out some boxes in the garage, I found a toy of my childhood. It is a plastic figure of the Stay Puft Marshmallow
What did you do, Ray?
I was probably, 8, 9, 10 when I got this, so I somehow stuck with my junk for a long time.
How old were you when Ghostbusters came out? Were you about...
it was mid-'80s, so probably between 6 and 8 years old.
And really, whenever you're watching Ghostbusters and that Stay Puft Marshmallow Man comes out, it kind of looks really good. Like there's an actual 80-foot monster attacking New York. I wanted to know what your take was in the movie theater, because I've heard people say that movie theaters were just going nuts whenever they saw this guy.
I cannot answer because I was too young to go to the movie at the time. My parents, weren't sure. This is, of course, before like direct to DVD and cable or anything really quite like that. So they saw the movie in theaters. And then when it came to VHS, they said, okay, he's old, he can watch this. So I didn't get to see the theater experience. I saw Ghostbusters 2 in the theater, but not the first one. But yeah, I've heard the theaters went wild when it first came out. So that's my little piece of table kerfuffle.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you bring to us?
Well, you know those little vending machines that are right outside Walmart or any convenience stores? There was one where it said, buy a Ninja for 25 cents, and that's what I did. So
I agree with that statement. How could I not? Oh, that's adorable.
This is like the Ninja of water.
So look at that. Yeah, I believe that's actually the symbol for water on his head.
Yeah, look at those eyes right there. Are they scary? Yeah?
A little bit. A little scary, a little adorable.
This is a bok choy boy.
Bok choy boy.
Yeah, you can look him up on Facebook if you're so inclined. But it's basically just a little, what would you say, a little tchotchke, little figurine.
Yeah.
I mean, not going to do anything except hold paper down, but, you get a little emotional attachment.
What he's going to do is decorate this set.
Yeah.
That's his new job.
And now I have nothing on my actual desk because these were the three things. And I have these 3 things on my desk because they're protecting me from students with complaints. You know, I got Rick with a gun, I got an angry bird, and I got a little ninja.
You have a very, very aggressive desk outlook there. Well, we'll find something for your future desk. So, listeners, thanks so much for tuning in, for listening, for watching. We will see you next week. Do we have our guests lined up next week?
Next week is our return of Walking Dead. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, Nathan, because episode 6 we had a Walking Dead special, which tied up with the season 3 finale.
Yeah.
And Nathan agrees we shouldn't really repeat topics, so next week we're going to have maybe a little discussion about survival, I guess. Yep. And our guest is going to be a good friend of mine, Walking Dead enthusiast and musician Aaron Kosherek.
Yes.
Now, Nathan, he's got 2 songs lined up amongst other songs. One's going to be about a zombie.
Excellent.
And another one's going to be weird science.
I love it. I love it.
So, we haven't talked about this yet, Nathan, but I'm thinking next week maybe having live music instead of regular music. So, you know, we'll talk about it. Don't you worry, Psych Out people. We'll have a good show for you.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Let me yawn really quick.
All right.